One thing that I tend to help a lot of people with is, for one, identifying what you enjoy. What out of all of the lead generation strategies, let's start there. Out of all of the lead generation strategies that you've come across, which one do you feel like you would enjoy doing the most? How is that done? And how was I able to do it? Through systems, structure, and scaling. So what the book is about, it's for one, taking all the limitations off of you and what you think you have to be limited to as a real estate agent. What if I'm closing two a month and I know that I'm that type of person that's just very scattered and all over the place? Why can't I hire the admin right now? Then I hire the admin right now. Gosh, this admin has freed up my time. Now I'm sitting at 5 listings a month.
We know all real estate agents want to acquire clients consistently so that they can grow their business and income for that great lifestyle. This broadcast brings you the best and top people in the industry to support that quest. This is Dave Fanale, and I'm here to bring you the Real Estate Skill Builder broadcast, Real Estate Talk TGIF, brought to you by Real Estate Skill Builder and Aligned, your premier real estate solution. All right, here we are. Dave Fanale here, Real Estate Talk TGIF, episode 405, 400 weeks in a row. Today I'm really fired up because my guest is someone I met through social media years ago, and he was on a broadcast, like I said, 300 weeks ago, which is almost 6 years, which means we've been on the air. We've been doing this for over 7.5. Here we are. You came into real estate, I believe, in 2013. No network, no capital, no nothing. Cold calls, open houses, and you had a camera, and you use it because not everybody else was doing video back then. I remember in those years, in the 13, 14, 15, everybody says, this is the year of video. And I say to myself, I started myself 6 years earlier. So, why was it the year of video? Anyway, so you didn't just sell homes. You built a system. You closed around $40 million a year, leading a team, proving that YouTube wasn't a gimmick, that it was leverage. Then you took what you learned, built power unit coaching. You helped agents stop guessing and start running real businesses with structure, automation, and intention. You're an author, right? The Real Before the Estate, and the latest one, Do the Most, The Entrepreneur's Guide to Infinite Hustle, which I want to talk about. But, as I said, you're a speaker, you're a coach, one of the earliest guys to really do things digitally the right way. Please welcome everybody. I'm proud to talk about what he's built, Chaston Miles. Thanks, man. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Great, man. So before we get started, I always ask this same question, and it has been a long time since I asked you this question, and I know I did way back when, is what does TGIF stand for?
This is about to show my age, but thank God it's Friday. But when I hear TGIF, I literally think of, remember those Friday primetime TV shows that would come on, Step by Step and Full House, and again, my age. But
no, man. I mean, I remember that because that was in the 90s, right? The mid 90s with oh man, I remember that. That was fun. But I want to thank you for the reminiscing, but it doesn't mean that when it comes to here. Thank God it's Fanale. I mean, how could you miss it? Here we are. So man, look, we start there, but let's get into you, man. Let's talk about, you got into the business with nothing really to start with, just, look, how I got into the business, there's the phone, answer it if it rings. That's what I was told, right? And you went through all these things. You now coach a lot of people. You've gone from Dallas to Miami, back to Dallas, and it's been a career of education for you. Let's put it that way. Talk to me about your journey and what excites you about how you did from the beginning to today.
Sure. One of the advantages of my journey, and I look at it as an advantage now, was that I didn't have any type of real estate exposure or history or anything like that before I got into the business. And so I came in pretty blind. Um, with that being said, I didn't have any type of reservations about anything. I didn't exactly know what I was supposed to be doing. I was one of those true people that it's like, tell me what to do and I'm going to go do it. And I got into the business because it was my initial plan to move to California. I said, I was living in Georgia at the time. I want to move to California, but I need to make a bunch of money because I didn't have money. I was only like 22 at the time. And everyone would tell me, well, real estate is the career to make a bunch of money. Real estate is a career. Again, didn't know anything about real estate. Started searching. I saw I needed a real estate license. Studied for that license, got the license, and got into the business here in Texas. And I felt like I was walking around aimlessly. This was
Wow.
such a, busy career. Everybody was running around doing things, and here I was not knowing a single thing. But I was willing to do whatever it took. So one of the things and one of the pieces of advice that I was getting was to get listings. Get listings. You got to get listings. And then to get listings, they said you got to cold call it for sale by owners and expireds. Look, I did it. I didn't come from that type of past. I didn't have any sales skills. I didn't know what I was doing. I was just reading the scripts and making the calls. Finally got my first listing, and the listing wouldn't sell. It wouldn't sell for anything. Nobody wanted that home. Nobody wanted to live in that area at the time. And I was hosting this home open every single weekend, both days, Saturday and Sunday, for 4 hours straight. Well, this one particular day that I was going out to host this open house, I'm walking out of my apartment and my electricity disconnects. And that was my first kind of indication. I was like, oh boy, because it wasn't a power outage or anything like that. It was because I didn't pay the bill. Nonetheless, I had to go and host this open house and get it done. So here I am. First hour goes by, nobody comes in. Second hour goes by, still nobody comes in. And that third hour was there, and I knew halfway through it, nobody was going to be coming in. And I remember walking to that door. I'm in this old vacant home, one of those homes that you hear every step that you make,
Yeah.
it's your steps or something else going on in the back of the house. But I walked to that front door and extended my arm out and I locked that lock, and I immediately fell to the ground, bawling my eyes out. I was having a complete breakdown at that moment. And for the first time, I felt like a total failure. Like here I was. I moved from across the country, had these big dreams of California living, thought I was going to make a bunch of money. I'm 8 months into the business. I've spent all of my money on trying to build this business. And here I am, quarter tank of gas, electricity now off at home, and I didn't know what I was going to do. And in that moment, I said to myself, I said, okay, I can go and get a job and hopefully have some money in the next couple of weeks, or I can continue and try to figure something out, try to make it work. Well, obviously, since I'm sitting here right now with you, I chose that route of continuing to make it work. And that's what
Right.
really excites me about what I do now, because I've been there. I know what it's like. I was literally in that moment where I was about to give up. And I've had many of those moments since. So I don't want to make it seem like that was the only one. But with that being said, it's empowered me now to take what I know, what I was able to build, and how I did it, and empower others to do the same thing. Because I'm not going to say that I had some type of magic spell or pill or anything, because there's a lot of information out there and a lot of it works very well. But what I found out was I had to figure out what works for me. And once I figured that out, the business took a totally different turn. And so what I do a lot today, I mean, you mentioned the books, the coaching, selling real estate, the apps, all of that is coming from a place of, hey, I've been there. And if you're in this same position or a similar one, I know 100% that I can help you.
So, I've been asking the same question when I start this broadcast, this show every week about journey. And over the past few months, I've gotten a little bit away from it because I want to go from, what's more pertinent today. And there couldn't be anything more apropos than your story, because let's face it, we're in a challenging market. Now, not every state is the same. I mean, here in northern New Jersey, there's no inventory, and that hasn't changed. That's been like that for years. In Florida, they have, expired listings. Well, we have those here too, but that's beside the point. My point is that they've got a lot of inventory down there, and the market is completely different. Texas, other states, it's mostly inventory issues. And there's a lot of people out there a lot of agents that, are struggling, right? I know that what we do on a regular basis is we're able to try to not change a mindset, but see that, there's other things that can work for you and try to find what worked for you. How did you find, Chaston, what was going to work for you? Since there's so many things out there, like I believe that there are 7 pillars to lead generation. I'm not going to get into that now, but I try to talk about those a bit with my clients as well as the team members. So talk to me, what worked for you and how did you find it?
Sure. Well, I had to find what works for me by honestly reverse engineering pretty much everything that I was doing. Because I'm not going to lie, I was that person that I would try something and maybe I would try it for a week. And if I
Oh,
didn't
geez.
have that big result after me, quote unquote, trying it, then I was like, okay, this isn't it. I got to try something else. It's kind of like you go to an event over the weekend and you're all fired up, you're ready to hit the ground running. Monday comes along, you're ready to implement everything that the speakers talked about. Then by Wednesday, you're kind of questioning, this isn't going how I thought it was going to go. Then by Thursday, now you're on YouTube and TikTok looking at videos and you're seeing other strategies and you're like, I'm going to try this. And then Friday comes along, you're like, okay, this next Monday, I'm going to try this something new. Like that was me every single time. And what I had to do was start to reverse engineer and look at those small wins, because it wasn't that things were not working, because they were working. I just wasn't seeing a lot of the things that were working. And once I actually took a more granular look at things, then my perspective started to change. And I was like, okay, so for instance, if I would make a cold call, right? And someone tells me, oh, no, I'm not ready right now. Like that would be the end of it for me, because it was like, okay, X this name out. Nothing's going to come of this. Versus, hey, this person still, they didn't say no. They said they're not ready right now. They said that I could follow up with them, right? They said that I could call back at a later date. So why am I writing it off like it didn't work? You
Right.
know,
Right.
I really saw that a lot as I started to put more content out on social media, because at that time there was no going viral overnight. Like you had to work with the algorithm, you had to consistently put out content, and eventually people would start watching it. And that's what happened for me. People would start to reach out on videos that I put out 2 years ago. Now, the old me would have completely was like, nope, nothing's coming of this. And I probably would have stopped. But when you start looking back and looking at these small wins, next thing you know, they all start kind of compounding. And that's what happened for me. It was that snowball effect where, like, okay, now I have one deal, and here goes another deal randomly that I wasn't expecting. And then it all became very random. But before I knew it, I was carrying, 15 deals at a time. And I was like, whoa, what is taking place here? And it kind of forced me into going big, because once you start to like taste that, you don't want to stop it. So
Right.
yeah.
So let me ask you a question. Was it, I'm going to use a word that I love, and you had to have built it up. It's called momentum.
Yeah.
So, and the thing, and correct me if I'm wrong, you just didn't stop. You may have just changed things, but you just kept going, and your momentum built on one after the other after the other. Is that correct? Is that correct in assuming that?
Yes. Looking back, that's exactly what it did. Yep.
Okay. So, um, as time went on, you started building everything. You started helping other people do it. Talk to me about your transition from, okay, you had 15 transactions going on at a time. How did that help you snowball into your next stage, whether it was writing or coaching?
Sure. So one thing that I pretty much consistently did throughout my journey was I was always documenting. I was always filming, and no, I didn't have a camera crew behind me. It was literally me and my phone, just all the time filming. Didn't have a plan for it. It wasn't my goal to become a big YouTube star or anything.
Right,
Honestly, for me, my YouTube channel was kind of like my journal, right? I wasn't
right,
one of those that yep, I wasn't one of those that kept a notebook, but I would just turn on the phone and just start recording and upload these videos. And I didn't think anybody would even watch them, but I consistently did that throughout my journey. So how that transition took place, it was like, okay, in one of these first videos, he's literally thinking about quitting, and he's complaining and talking about how he's not making any money. Fast forward along this journey, now he has all these deals going on, and he's showing us the homes, he's taking us through them. Some clients are appearing. Now he's hiring admins and buyers agents and this. So people are seeing this
right,
in pretty much real time. And so as they're seeing that, I wasn't just talking about it, I was documenting and showing. I started to receive messages and DMs from people. Hey, can you help me? I saw where you came from. I'm at that place right now. Can you mentor me? Can you coach me? This, that, and the other. And me, I'm just a helpful spirit kind of guy, because I was like, sure, like no problem. So then I started taking on people, and I was doing, I guess you can call it mentorship, but I wasn't a professional coach. I didn't know
right,
how to coach, nothing like that.
right.
I was just telling you what I did. And over time, as I was extremely busy in my real estate business, that wasn't scalable. So I started this group coaching thing. Hey, you all just show up. We'll meet on Zoom and just talk it out. Then people started telling other people, and I was like, okay, this is now becoming something. And that's what launched the coaching company. It was literally, hey, I want to help. People want my help. And so let
Right.
me put some structure and systems behind it, because I learned that in my real estate business. When you have structure and systems, now you can scale. So let me put some structure and systems behind it. And that's what became Power Unit Coaching.
Okay, so power unit coaching. So you did that in your first stint in Texas because you made a move, right?
Yes.
And you made
Yes.
a move, and talk to me about, you went from Texas to Miami, and there was I believe you had some kind of disconnect or something in your head or whatever, and you just needed to, you went for a change of pace. Talk to me about that move and why you did it, and then coming back and why that helped you.
Sure. So for someone like me, I've done a lot in my career. I mean, I've done a lot. Built teams, scaled brokerages, helped brokerages, TV, magazines, stages, books, boards, you name it, investments, commercial. I've done it all. And over the last 10 years, like, all of that happened through my infinite hustle, but that was a lot going on in a very short amount of time, in perspective. And
Right.
it got to a point where I don't want to say that I was burnt out, but I wasn't excited about much. I wasn't getting excited about the homes. I wasn't getting excited about the next client again. It wasn't that exciting adventure that I felt like it once was. Now me, I'm a little extreme and I do the most. And so the only
Right.
way that I can most times get that excitement for anything is to place myself in a very uncomfortable situation. And I've been doing it my whole career, so I'm accustomed to it. But I felt like I was at a level where, hey, I needed to be in a very, very, very big uncomfortable situation. And so I decided to pack up and move to Miami. And I looked at that as exciting, but also uncomfortable because, for one, I had only been to Miami on vacation a couple times and only really been in the touristy areas. I rented a place sight unseen. I
Huh.
did it all online. But what really excited me about this move was the real estate there. Early on in my career, it was my dream. Like, I wanted to specialize in condos, high rises. Dallas has a good number of them, but it's nothing like South Florida. And
Right.
I was just so excited with that opportunity, being able to see this side of real estate that, frankly, I'd never really been exposed to besides just on TV. And so I packed up, moved across the country again, and I was like, I'm just going to try this out. Luckily, I had connections there, made new great connections, but got exposed to things and styles of real estate and architecture that I know that I wouldn't have gotten just by remaining content in the position that I was in. And
Right.
so since doing that, got fired up, did that for about 2.5 years, built a whole software while I was out there because Miami is actually really big into tech. I'm not sure if you know that, but huge tech industry out there.
Yep.
And then I said, okay, I'm going to go back to Texas. And I've come back here and I'm reignited in a different way that has in turn made me more motivated, is helping me help my clients better, and is firing up my team in a different way that we've never even experienced before.
So,
So yeah.
getting fired up, and you had, I mean, you didn't have an epiphany, I don't think, but you did have a thought process of wanting to be excited again, right? And it's not burnout. It's just like almost boredom. You know,
Yeah.
it kind of gets to a point of it's almost boredom, and you can't really accomplish what you want because you're blocking yourself, right? You're getting in your own way. You don't realize it. So you go to Miami and you experience that, and then you come back to Texas, and now you're re-energized. What was is there a re-energized point? Is there a re-energized switch? Because one of the things, Chaston, that I ask a lot of my guests here is, was there a switch that you turned to be able to go from shit's not working to it working, and then, oh no, this, I don't like this anymore. Let me go here and come back, because you've done a lot of change in location, let's say, but there's always had to be a switch for you to make it grow again. Like you go along like this, and then you go down, and maybe down a little bit for mindsets off, and then you go up like here. What's the switch that got you from Miami to Dallas back? Is there
The
one?
Yeah, well, I would say the switch that probably brought me back and really excited me about coming back was feeling like something that nobody else knows, right?
Yeah, I know
And
that feeling.
and feeling like it's kind of one of those things, how they say, if you can make it in New York City, you can make it anywhere, right?
Yes.
Because you just learn a new type of hustle there, and you get into that society, and you're like, oh man, things move fast, things are done big, and yeah, if I take this to small town wherever, I can just dominate. And that's kind of how I felt, and that was probably that switch especially by having such a history of selling real estate here in Dallas, and then seeing things that, I mean, because I'm gonna say I was in the fishbowl here in a sense of like I thought this was it. I mean, we have this, we don't need anything else, and there's no better way to sell real estate than how we do it here. But no, when you get exposed to just the magnitude of the possibilities, right? Like let's let's just take like a broker's open, for instance. Having a
Sure.
broker's open on a yacht and then hopping on a party bus that takes you to the actual property. Like for one, my first mind would have been like, why would anybody want to even do all of that? But then my other side was like, gosh, and this is a broker's open, I'm just imagining the exposure, how the client would feel, the types of people that it would attract, the types of brokers that it would attract. And then something like that, even though we don't have huge yachts here, but something like that being done in Dallas, I mean, that's like headline newsworthy, and so it's things like that flip that switch for me, because it's like, all right, look, we're about to come out really strong and really hard, doing some things that people are not accustomed to seeing. And that excites me because now it's new. It's not the same old. And you get that fire back when you get that type of motivation.
No, absolutely. I understand exactly what you mean. And I asked the question from a personal standpoint, knowing that, having run a brokerage for many, many years and getting either burnout or just, you throw your hands up because you did a lot of things that you shouldn't have done. Well, I take that back. You do a lot of things that didn't work, like you were talking about in the beginning of your career, right? So you do a lot of things that didn't work. And then you realize that what I realized was the people were the wrong thing, not what I was trying to do. And maybe ahead of my time. And I tried to push things from my own mindset. What I've learned recently, thanks to you and many others that are on this broadcast and the people I work with on a day-to-day basis, is that, there's more than one way to do things, and everybody has great input as to what's going on. And the more people that you align with and get into the rooms with are going to help you a lot. And that's what I have found to be very, very helpful for me. You talk about hustle, right? And it's always been a word for me that, is hustle, there's grit. And I just finished reading the book, I believe it's Angela Duckworth, a book called Grit. And now there's your book, which is absolutely great as far as the title is concerned, which is Do the Most, the Entrepreneur's Guide to Infinite Hustle. So infinite hustle, and you mentioned that earlier, right? Tell me about the book and how it can be a great playbook for entrepreneurs and business builders aside from real estate.
Yes, do the most. Do the most. That's a motto, a slogan of mine. I'm even called Mr. Do the Most in a lot of rooms. And it came about because, I mean, especially this book came about because throughout my journey, and I know I've mentioned a lot of the things that I've done throughout my journey. A lot of people have always asked me, like, how do you do all that? Like I would never have time for that. And we've heard coaches and people say we all have the same 24 hours in the day.
Right.
But what I realized, and what prompted me to give everybody this playbook, was because I realized that your day doesn't have to be limited by 24 hours. It doesn't have to be limited by 8 hours. So the term infinite hustle, think of that, and you can translate that to whatever you want, but think of that as like, my work never stops, even though I'm not the one doing it. How is that done? And how was I able to do it? Through systems, structure, and scaling. So what the book is about, it's for one, taking all the limitations off of you and what you think you have to be limited to as a real estate agent. I've done so many things that are not in any real estate playbooks, but I have the same license. I've gone through the same education. I sell in the same neighborhoods. So it's like, what's the difference between me getting these opportunities, TED Talks, TV, news, prime time? What's the difference between me getting these opportunities and you? Well, it has nothing to do with real estate, but it has everything to do with doing the most. Okay. So when we say do the most, it's like, hey, what else do I want to do? If I had to think
Right.
of me as that entrepreneur, because at the end of the day, we're entrepreneurs who are in the real estate business, me as an entrepreneur, what do I want my life to look like? What do I want my legacy to look like after I'm gone? What do I want people to say? What opportunities and doors do I want to open for myself? And I tell you in the book how to make that happen, right? Because yeah, we're all busy. We all have to sell homes. Some of us are running teams, but that doesn't have to be the limitation. And look, a lot of one of the things that I get from a lot of people, a lot of agents, we all like to say when the time is right, or after I finish this, then I'm going to do this. Even people, even part-time agents, oh, I'm going to quit when my full-time job, when the time is right. And I'm here to tell you, there's no perfect time for anything. And just when you think the time is right, something's going to come up and you're going to realize, oh, that's about to set me back a couple of weeks. Next thing you know, a year passes. So instead of waiting for that perfect time, how about we set up the system behind it so that you're able to do both? And even now, which I wish I would have talked about this more in the book, but even now, it's even easier because of AI to where you can almost set up a system for anything, to help you scale.
Yeah.
So it's all about identifying what these goals are, figuring out what system needs to be put in place, having that structure behind the system, and then scaling. So that's what do
Okay.
the
So
most.
you need, all right. So a couple of things. Years ago, I learned from a friend of mine, actually Tina Davidson, Rick Davidson's wife. Rick was a former CEO and president of Century 21. And Tina said, if I can help people get through more wins, they will have more wins. And what she meant was, like you just said, when I get this, I can do that. Like waiting for that time, right? And what you're saying is the wins are always there. You just need to ignore them and just because there's never going to be that time. So when you hit one win, there's going to be another win, and all the wins are going to get in your way. Does that make sense? You
Yep.
know what I mean by that?
Yep. And I'll tell you, one of the things that I discovered that brought it into perspective for me was kind of doing things early in a sense of what's been told. So like for instance, I would go to conferences or I would read real estate books and videos, and it was like, okay, you hire your admin when you have this, when you've closed this many homes, then you hire your admin. Or some
Right,
others, when you're closing 5 consistently a month, then you hire an admin.
right.
Well, what if I'm closing 2 a month and I know that I'm that type of person that's just very scattered and all over the place? Why can't I hire the admin right now? Then I hire the admin right now. Gosh, this admin has freed up my time. Now I'm sitting at 5 listings a month. And then next thing you know, I'm sitting at 10 listings a month, right? I hired this admin when I only had 2. I didn't need to wait until I had 5 or 10. The admin helped me get those 5 or 10, but I don't think that I would have gotten them without having this help. So again, this is that scenario of perfect timing where it's like, this is the perfect time for me. I feel like I can afford it. So why not?
I really like that way you put that, because I know of a very, very successful real estate agent team leader by the name of Kyle Whistle, and I'm sure you know who Kyle is,
Yeah.
right? When Kyle got into the business, he will tell you the first thing he did was hire an assistant. He didn't have any business. He knew he didn't want to do contracts. He didn't want to do any of that the paperwork. He didn't want to do any of that crap. And he just said, I'm going to hire an assistant. She's going to, or he or she's going to do this, 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 and this. And I'm going to go out there and hustle. And interestingly enough, one of the other things he said he should have hired at that time was a driver.
Yeah.
So he didn't have to drive everywhere. So he could be on the phone in the back of the car, like you see in the movies with these big executives. All right, man. So we're moving through that. And then, I asked earlier about the switch, right? And we talked earlier about motivation, momentum, etc., right? But there's also other things. I do a session before this broadcast every Friday called Plan and Prep. And okay, you could say, well, Dave, that's pretty boring. You're talking about schedule and calendars. No, today's subject was, in the past 2 months of what you did to your calendar, what has it done for you? And I said, there are 2 questions for the day. The second question was, has it changed you? Right? And one of the things that I get out of that is, we talked today a lot about fear and doubt, right? Doubt is a thing that people have. It's just, a lot of people have, maybe not everybody, but it's intrinsic in you, right? So when we're talking about, the hustle and all that, can you help me break through fear and self-doubt? Did that occur in your life and in your business? And when agents come to you, how do you help them with that?
Sure, absolutely. And yes, of course I've encountered fear and doubt, but I realize that fear comes from the unknown, doubt comes from the unexperienced. And when we fear things, it's
Wow.
because we don't know what's gonna happen, right? I fear, or I'm scared to walk through that door because I don't know what's on the other side. When the doubt comes in, it's like, no, I can't get a listing that big. Why? Because you've never experienced getting a listing that big. But when you do, you realize, oh, this is just like getting a regular average listing, you know? And so the fear and the doubt are all based on us and our beliefs and our experiences. Now, one thing that I tend to help a lot of people with is, for one, identifying what you enjoy. What out of all of the lead generation strategies, let's start there. Out of all of the lead generation strategies that you've come across, which one do you feel like you would enjoy doing the most? Right? For a lot of people, and I've said this publicly, I hate door knocking. You will never hear me say go door knock, because not that I don't think it works. It's just not my thing. I tried it for 2 days. I was super hot. Like, it just wasn't an experience that I liked. But door knocking works 100%. Now, me, I like sales calls. They're like fun. They're like a game for me. But I know a lot of people don't like cold calling. So there's 100+ different ways you can lead generate. Let's find what you would enjoy the most. Once you've identified that, now make that your main source of lead generation. Meaning, you're not going to just be hopping all over the place because all these different people say different things work. No, you're going to go 100x on the thing that you enjoy. And what I found is, you're going to last longer doing it. You're going to get better results. You're going to be really great at it because you naturally enjoy that. Right.
Okay.
And
Go ahead.
so once you place yourself in that position, and that could be for lead generation, that could be for how you get new clients, networking events. Heck, if you're a very nervous person and you don't like to talk to people, I don't want to set you back by trying to take a skill that you're a 2 at and trying to make it a 10. versus we can find something that you're an 8 at and turn that into a 10. And so that's my whole strategy starting out. And as you begin to mature in the business, then hey, you can add on other things should you want, but that's not my style. And that's not what I even preach in the book nor in coaching. I preach, hey, let's find somebody who does enjoy this and bring them on staff. So now you're covering all pieces of the pie with people who are performing based on their strengths, and they're able to make up for the areas that you're weak in. And so that's how you begin to put structure in place in your business and in everything you do, because this system, it works so well and people enjoy doing it because they're doing things that they actually like doing, and you get better results from it.
So what for you when you're working with agents, they're not going to want to pick up the phone. They might not want to do video or door knocking, as we said. So is there? I mean, you said there's over 100, and there's plenty more than that, but it's anything you can think of to lead generate. So I mean, is there something aside from this the basics of sphere of influence, for sale by owners, expireds, withdrawals, all that shit in social media? Is there something that has stood out to you where people will go to and it will work for them?
Sure, events. I'm starting to speak with a lot of people who enjoy attending events and think that they would enjoy hosting events, so they start hosting events, um, seminars, networking events, and I have a whole framework around hosting an event that you don't even have to speak at, right? So events, that's a strategy that people
Yep.
nowadays are starting to do a lot of. But I want to circle back because
Okay.
cold calling, door knocking, things like that. If someone feels like they need that, right? Because I'll be the first to say I think you can get some very quick results with cold calling, right? But if that's not your thing and you know that it will never be your thing, my next question is, okay, how much can you afford to allocate to bring on an ISA right now? Because hey, it's going to get you appointments. A great ISA will get you appointments. So are you willing to make that investment so that way you can get these appointments, right? I found that pretty much a lot of areas in this business, we can what's the word, outsource, right? A lot of areas in this business we can outsource, and it's even so easier. I mean, nowadays it's so easy to outsource things with sites like Upwork and Craigslist and Facebook. You can find somebody willing to do things. I would every single year I would post an ad on the website. Is called, I think it's Barefoot or something like that. But and that may be wrong, so don't quote me, y'all. But what it is it's a college intern website that all these companies will post internships on, and these college students who need credits can apply for your internship. I've consistently posted on there every single year. That's how I've brought on marketing staff. That's how I've brought on digital, like ads, social media, things like
Right.
that,
Right. Right.
IT, you name it. I've brought people on for that. And look, these people are smart. These people are so
Yeah.
smart. And look, this is my whole philosophy with people who I hire. Whatever I hire somebody for, I want them to be better at that than I am.
Oh,
Right? Like,
absolutely.
teach me something. Yes. Um, and it's really good because most of them don't have extensive real estate exposure. So they're like me when I first got into the business. Hey, I don't know anything. So whatever you tell me, I'm going to do it, and I'm going to do it very well. And I love that attitude because as you go through this career, now you start rewiring your brain, some positive, but a lot negative. Oh, I don't want to do that. Oh, people are going to think this. Oh, no, I'm ashamed of that. But when you don't have that pre-wiring going on for these situations, you just do it because you think that's how it's done, right? If
Yeah.
I go and get a normal retail job and my boss tells me, hey, you have to do this every single day, who am I to be like, oh, I'm uncomfortable doing that? No, I'm just gonna do it because it's what the job requires,
Right.
and this is what I got to do. So where in real estate and where in us running our businesses did it become so okay to be like, oh, I'm not gonna market my business today because I'm so tired, or I don't like it, or I don't know how to do it. Well, it's like this is what the job requires.
Right.
Figure it out or put somebody in place to do it. You know?
You know, you are so correct. It's like I always use the example of you had a 9 to 5 job. You'd come in, you start work at 9, you do what the boss tells you to do, whatever your position is, you do it. Maybe you take a lunch break, and then at 5 o'clock you get ready and you go home. Why can't you do that in real estate? I mean, oh well, it's not a 9 to 5 job. Well, it really could be,
Yep.
right? It really could be if you take my plan and prep course, of course, but that's beside the point, right? I mean, look, I mean, you talk about hiring someone that's better at you at doing something. I get that and I love that. And here's what I was taught over the years, because I grew up in a situation where we did everything ourselves, right? We were property managers, we owned properties. So we fixed the toilets, we cleaned the hallways, we shoveled the snow. Believe me, I did snow for over 40 years. And you know what? I look out the window now when it's snowing up here and all the snow we've gotten this year. I'm saying, well, okay, they should do it this way. They should do it that way. I want to tell them what to do. I just still don't want to do it. But the point I'm making is that it was hard for me um, not doing everything myself. And then I got a light bulb went off when a coach told me, says, Dave, remember, even though you know how to do it, make sure your agents think you don't know how to do it, so they will go to the person that you hired to do that job. Because if you're going to do the job that you hired somebody to do, you're wasting your money and get out of business. So my point is, delegate what you've got to do, what you can do. Like you said, ISA or an admin, even if you're only doing 2 deals a month. If you can afford it and you can do it and you know how you're going to be motivated and disciplined to get the job done, that's what you do. Does that all make sense to you?
Yep, absolutely.
It's as simple as that. But ego will always get in the way. Um, and just there's we've got a couple of great comments, which I'm going to put up in a second. But we talk about hustle, and everybody goes, "Oh, you got to hustle, you got to hustle, you got to hustle." And I mentioned earlier this book, this word called grit, grit and purpose, and that's I believe somewhere in your book talking about that. Is there a difference, or do you need a purpose to have grit, or do you need grit to have a purpose?
So the funny thing about purpose with me, for a while, and this happens in cycles, I didn't know what my purpose was. I didn't. I never sat down and literally. It was until a therapist asked me, "What's your purpose?" that I realized I didn't know, because I've set goals. I I have achievements, but when I thought about like purpose, it was always a blank for me. And I feel like, and this is for me, when it comes to purpose, my purpose is not a lifetime purpose, because I found that back 5 years ago, my purpose was different than it was 5 years before that, than it was even to today. And my purpose tends to come from what excites me and what I feel like I'm making the biggest difference in. And the thing for me is that since I operate by this do the most philosophy and this infinite hustle framework, since I operate that way, my goals tend to get hit very quickly, like quicker than I even planned for them. And I found myself in situations where I'm like, gosh, what do I do next? What,
Right.
you know,
Right.
I've accomplished it. I've done big things. Like some people work a lifetime to achieve some of these things. And that's what made me really start looking at purpose. And it was like, chasing, what is my purpose? What is my purpose? And unfortunately, I still couldn't find one. I still couldn't identify one for me. But what I've come to say is my purpose is helping people reach their purpose or reach their potential or reach their goal. I'm that type of person where I have to, like, I find fulfillment and enjoyment, and I feel purposeful by knowing that you're on the path to, achieve whatever it is you're trying to achieve, and that I'm helping you do it. Right. So it's a little weird for me. I think that I have the grit to stay the course. I have the grit and acknowledgement of challenges and of obstacles, and I welcome them
Right.
because it's one of those other things. It excites me because it gives me something to figure out.
Right.
It makes
Right.
my brain go. And so, which is why I love coaching, and which is why our program and everything that I do, it's not cookie cutter, because I love the thrill of, hey, what's your situation? And let's map out a plan for yours specifically, that we could both have fun doing and have great results with it.
That's great. I love that. I love that, man. Purpose is, it can be really difficult for a lot of people. I mean, you know, parents, their purpose can be their children, can be their spouse, could be, their mom, their dad, whatever it is. And as you get older, sometimes, well, okay, so like you just said, I've accomplished this. What is it? I'll use the example of, I always wanted my goal when I was running a lot was run a 9-minute mile. I remember achieving that 9-minute mile, and then the next day, I think I couldn't break 11, and it was really strange, and I could not figure out why for a long time. And why was I figured out why I couldn't was because I had achieved it. And okay, what now? I didn't have a second goal. I didn't project after that, which I think is really really important, to have goal sets.
Mhm.
And I talk about that a lot too. But anyway, man, I mean, that's the way I look at it. And I want to thank you for being on today, but also, we've got, Leslie Ortiz is on, and she said this is really inspiring. Talk about, you were talking about the snowball effect earlier, and I want to thank Leslie for being on today and watching us, as well as my friend George Castro, who was on this broadcast a few weeks ago as my guest, for coming on and being there. Really want to appreciate those people, for really participating. And hey, man, we've come to really the end of our broadcast today, and there's a couple of things that are really important that we do at the end of the broadcast. But the most important thing really is to ask you is how I can help you grow your business.
How you can help me grow my business? Well, for one, the biggest way that I think that you can help me is by having me on sooner than another 300 episodes. 'Cause this was this was really fun. And I love being on shows like this, where the host gets it and they've experienced it and they've, been around the block a few times, because the conversation gets to be more organic, and I feel like
Yeah,
we help more people that way. Another thing is keep doing what you do. Definitely, I would say the biggest thing you can help me with is grab a copy of Do the Most. As a matter of fact, I'll send you a couple of copies, but give
thank
those
you.
out to people.
Thank
Just
you. And
share it with someone.
awesome, man. Thank you so much for that. And thank you so much for being on. And the last thing we do is, it's a trademark of this broadcast, and I didn't talk about it earlier with you, is the hat. So, you should have gotten one 300 episodes ago, but if you didn't, you got a new one coming out to you. So this version of the hat's going to come to you. Thank you so much for being on the broadcast today. I truly appreciate you. Next week, we have Henry Eisenstein coming on, who is, this young guy that's doing commercial real estate, who is from New Jersey. He does most of his business in New Jersey, but he moved to Miami, and he does a lot of business in Miami now. He also heads up the commercial division at Align Real Estate Solutions, my team that I work with here in New Jersey. I'm looking forward to having him on next week. Everybody, thank you so much for being on here next week with episode 406 with Henry and Chaston. God bless you and your family, and please stay on as we go out. We got to get you this hat. Thank you, guys. God bless you. Have a great, great weekend, and another month starts this coming up in the next couple of days. So let's rock and roll. Nelson.